Last week, World Labs announced it was acquiring a company called SceniX. The news itself isn't big. What's interesting is the reason they gave when they sat down to explain why they bought it. Roughly, training robots may require a fundamentally different path than training language models. I'm relaying this. The primary source is a 42-minute interview on the A16Z channel, plus its official description.
The video went up on the A16Z channel on July 28, 2026. It runs 42 minutes and 21 seconds. The guests are Fei-Fei Li and Yunju Li. The host is Martin Casado. One more thing. The transcript in our knowledge base is only an excerpt, and its title and summary don't mention the acquisition at all. The acquisition is the whole occasion for this interview, so that frame has to come from the official description.
Let's place the people. And in this episode, the disclosure has to come first. Fei-Fei Li, co-founder and CEO of World Labs. ImageNet was hers. The other is Yunju Li, co-founder of SceniX, the company being acquired, and currently an assistant professor at Columbia University. His PhD was at MIT. Here's the part I like. His postdoc advisor was Fei-Fei Li. They laugh about it in the interview. Small world. Now the disclosure. The host, Martin Casado, is a partner at A16Z. The video sits on A16Z's own channel. The content is World Labs explaining why it made this acquisition. So this is not neutral reporting. This is a promotional setting. I'm not dismissing the technical content because of that. There's real substance in it. I'm just putting the position on the table. Every sentence you hear about why this path is right comes from the people betting on that path. All right, into it. What they're building is called real to sim to real. In one line, take the data and the evaluation a robot needs in the real environment and replace them with data you can generate at scale in a digital world. Which raises the obvious question. Why take the detour? Why not just train on real-world data? This is the part of the talk I think is most worth hearing. Fei-Fei Li says simulation does one thing real data cannot. Counterfactuals.
Her words, roughly. You play out events that never happened, or cannot happen, or that you simply can't gather enough real-world data for. And in the act of playing them out, you learn how to act inside them.
She says humans do this constantly. Our heads are full of simulation. Her example is the World Cup. Every game gets played out in planning before it's played for real. Let me put that more plainly. Real data can only tell you what happened. Simulation can tell you what would happen if. And robots need the second one most. Because most of the surprises they'll face never appear in the training data at all. Then comes a number I find genuinely hard.
Waymo has officially said they use billions of hours of simulation, and that they lean more on simulation than on real-world data.
But the half sentence right after it is the important part, and I'm relaying it as said. Cars are the simplest kind of robot. You can't drop that half. Drop it and you'll read this as, robots are basically solved. Keep it and you learn something else. Even the simplest kind needed billions of hours of simulation before anyone dared put it on the road. Then they split the benefit of simulation into two layers, and I think the split is more useful than the conclusion. Layer 1 is reliability.
For a robot to work reliably in the real environment, the data has to give systematic coverage of the state space. With simulation, you can systematically randomize lighting, friction, geometry, object types, and all kinds of physical parameters to make sure the coverage is there.
In plain terms, reliable doesn't mean it worked in the demo. It means it has seen every variation you can think of. And in the real world, you can't manufacture those variations on demand. Layer 2 is efficiency. And this layer contains a counterintuitive fact.
A lot of people currently collect data through teleoperation. A human wears a rig and drives the robot. But they point out that teleoperation collects data slower than the human doing the task themselves.
And then they add the line, that's actually the trap. For many of their customers, human speed already isn't fast enough. Those two have to be heard together. Hear only the first and you'll think, then just let the human do it. Add the second and you see the corner they're in. Humans are too slow. Teleoperation is slower than humans, so the only place left to find speed is simulation. All right, Now, where the real disagreement is. The host asked a very direct question, and I'm glad he did.
He said, I see a lot of robotics companies, and the popular approach right now is to use a video model. Your path is 3D plus simulation. That's very different. Can you contrast the two?
That's the crux of the whole episode. On the surface, they're discussing an acquisition. Underneath, two technical paths are competing for the same position. Yunju Li's answer has two halves, and most retellings drop the second one, so here's both. First half. He says existing video prediction models don't give a good enough signal for a robot to know what the right action is. But the second half.
He says explicitly that enormous effort is going into making video models stronger and stronger. The path he sees is this. The infrastructure they build provides initial momentum into a data flywheel. From more simulation-driven models to robot policy models actually executing in the real environment, collecting new data as they go, and that data flowing back in. And he says the final model doesn't have to be physics only and doesn't have to be learning only. It can be a hybrid.
So he did not say video models are useless. He said, not good enough yet, and I think it ends up mixed. That distinction matters. Because path A beats path B travels better than the two paths merge. And the second one is usually what actually happens. Let's set out the chairs. I count 5 here, and I'm not sitting in any of them. Chair 1, the people betting on simulation. Which is to say, the two people speaking in this interview. Their position. Real data is never enough, least of all for covering surprises. Simulation is the only place you can manufacture counterfactuals at scale. Weak spot, already stated. They are the side betting on this path. Chair 2, the people betting on video models. Not present today, but their position is clear. The volume of video in the world dwarfs any simulation anyone can build. Rather than hand model physics, let the model learn it from an ocean of video. That path is betting that scale solves structure. Chair 3, the people doing teleoperation and data collection. They're the ones actually sweating in this industry right now. And this interview essentially puts a ceiling on that path's efficiency. Let me be clear. That isn't saying they did it wrong. Until simulation is good enough, that was the only way to get real data at all. Chair 4, the customers buying robots. Their position is the plainest of all. I don't care which path you take. I need it fast enough and steady enough. That line in the interview. Human speed isn't enough for our customers. Is this chair talking? Chair 5, and the one that most deserves to be heard. The jobs this whole thing is being aimed at. I want to say this part carefully. Nothing in this interview says we're going to replace anyone. They talk about reliability, coverage, flywheels. But the sentence human speed isn't fast enough was, objectively, taken from this chair. I'm not going to dress that up as a crisis. Because they said the other half themselves.
They expect the focus to be on semi-structured environments rather than fully unstructured ones. And that reaching human-level efficiency will take a considerable time, with every part of the system having to work together.
What does semi-structured mean? Plainly, warehouse shelving, production line stations, places with a fixed process and a fixed setting, not some arbitrary messy room. So this doesn't advance by replacing everything one day. It eats outward from the most regular settings, one ring at a time. How far you are from that ring decides how much time you have. Historical coordinates. Which moment does this resemble? 3 answers, different endings, and I'm not picking. First, self-driving itself. Waymo got here on billions of hours of simulation. That's evidence the simulation path wins. And this interview cited it themselves. But note, it took well over a decade, and it still only operates in a limited set of cities. The answer this coordinate gives. Simulation really can work, but slower than anyone predicted. Second, computer vision itself. When Fei-Fei Li built ImageNet, the mainstream approach was hand-designed features. What won was feed it enough real data and let the model learn. Hand modeling lost. This coordinate gives the opposite answer. The side betting on scale and real data won once, and won decisively. And the dataset that made that win possible was the one Fei-Fei Li built herself. Third, computer graphics and physics engines. Games and film have done simulation for decades, and done it beautifully. But looks right and physically right enough to train a robot are very far apart. The lesson from that path: rendering fidelity and dynamical correctness are two different things. The answer this third coordinate gives: the tools existed long ago. The hard part is aiming them at a new target. I give 3 because handing you only Waymo would be drawing the conclusion for the people in this interview. Last, my take, and what I'll be watching. My take. The most informative thing here isn't the acquisition, and isn't the billions of hours. It's the half sentence. Cars are the simplest kind of robot. Because it's good news and bad news at once. Good news: the simulation path has been validated by the hardest deployment there is. Bad news: that was still the simplest kind, and it took well over a decade. One line: the timescale of this field is much longer than its news cycle. 3 signals I'll be watching. 1. Whether the hybrid actually happens. Yunju Li said himself, the endgame may be physics plus learning. If within a year you see video model companies buying simulation capability, or the reverse, that's the merge beginning. Not one beating the other. 2. How far the semi-structured boundary moves outward. Today it's warehouses and production lines. Watch for when it starts touching same setting but different every time. That's the real threshold. 3. Whether anyone produces third-party evaluation. Every judgment in this interview about whether simulation is real enough comes from the people building the simulation. That's not an accusation. It's a structural problem. This industry currently lacks a referee that belongs to neither path. As for you and me, if your work is repeating an execution in a fixed process and a fixed setting, you're closer to this line than the headlines suggest. But the reverse holds too. The more a job needs on-the-spot judgment, the more it differs every time, the further outside that ring it sits. That isn't reassurance. It's the boundary they drew themselves. Semi-structured, not unstructured. That's where I'll leave this one. Next one coming up.